Some roads don't just take you places. They carry the weight of everything you left behind. For Ray Harlan, Interstate 40 had become that kind of highway, long, unforgiving, and honest in a way people rarely are. It stretched from the dry sprawl of California clear across the heartland to the humid promise of the East Coast, and for 15 years it had been the only constant in his life. Every mile marker was a reminder of choices made at high speed, exits never taken, and one particular green sign that still twisted something deep in his chest every time it appeared in the headlights. And that's exactly the kind of quiet story I want to tell you tonight. My name is Jack Harlan, no relation to the man you're about to meet, though sometimes I wonder if we all carry a little piece of the same road inside us. I live up in a quiet corner of Colorado these days, just outside Fort Collins, where the mountains meet the plains and the winters give you time to think. By trade, I'm a freelance writer and storyteller, been chasing tales on back roads and bar stools for 30 years now. Some folks call it podcasting, I just call it listening to the quiet parts of people's lives. Tonight, for Whispers of Life, I want to share one of those stories that stuck with me like diesel on your hands. It's about a man named Ray Harlan, a long-haul trucker who spent 15 years running from something he couldn't outdrive. A story about love, choices, and the kind of regret that rides shotgun forever. Settle in, turn down the lights, and let the highway take us where it will. Ray Harlan figured I-40 was the closest thing he had to roots anymore. The blacktop ran straight as a promise from Barstow clear out to Wilmington, North Carolina, and he'd rolled every inch of it more times than he could count. His Freightliner Cascadia, a 2014 model pushing 1.4 million miles on the odometer, wore its scars like a veteran wears ribbons. Rock chips pockmarking the hood from endless desert runs, faded Harlan Hauling since '98 lettering peeling on the doors, and a dashboard that looked like the aftermath of a long bad habit. Empty Red Bull cans rolling in the footwell, crumpled fuel receipts stuffed in every crevice, and one small creased photo tucked behind the sun visor where the light never hit it square. The younger Ray, arm around a girl with sun-streaked blonde hair, both of them grinning like the future was something you could grab with both hands. He was 42 now, but the road had a way of accelerating time. Permanent squint lines etched around his eyes from too many sunrises bleeding into too many sunsets through a bug-splattered windshield. Hands thick with calluses from wrestling 13-speed transmissions, chaining tires in blizzards, and cranking landing gear on frozen mornings. He kept his hair buzzed military short so he didn't have to think about it, and the beard that had started as a 3-day scruff was now more salt than pepper, trimmed only when it started catching on his collar. Most nights he bunked in the sleeper of the Cascadia at some Flying J, pilot or TA, engine idling low to keep the heater blowing warm air against the cold metal skin of the cab. He'd wake every couple of hours to the metallic hiss of jake brakes on passing rigs or the lonely whistle of a freight train paralleling the interstate, wondering for a split second where home used to be, before remembering he didn't have one anymore. It wasn't a terrible life if you trained yourself not to look backward. The pay was decent when the loads were steady. The solitude suited him most days, and there was a quiet rhythm to it. Load, drive, unload, repeat. Coffee at dawn, diesel at dusk, and the white lines rolling under the tires like a metronome keeping regret at bay. But some regrets don't stay in the rear view. They ride right beside you, silent and patient. Every westbound haul through the Texas Panhandle dragged him past the same green exit sign, Exit 112, Dust Creek. The town was barely a blip on the map, 300 people if you included the strays and the barn cats, a rusted grain elevator that hadn't seen a full silo since the big drought of the mid-90s, a lone Dollar General with flickering lights, and Creek Stop Gas and Grill perched right off the ramp like it had been planted there the day Eisenhower signed the interstate into law. 15 years hadn't changed the place much. The red and white metal awning over the pumps was still peeling at the edges, curling like old paint on a barn. The two Talkheim dispensers out front had been converted to card readers years ago, but they still had that same stubborn hum when you squeezed the handle. A hand-painted sign hung crooked in the window. Best damn green chili cheeseburger in the Panhandle, no contest. Inside, the grill popped and sizzled with the same rhythm. The Bun coffee maker gurgled nonstop, and the air carried that familiar cocktail. Hot fryer oil, lemon pine saw from the morning mop, and the faint metallic bite of diesel that slipped in every time the bell jingled over the door. Ray had promised himself 1,000 times he'd take the exit, just once. Park the big rig in the empty spot beside the diesel island, step down in his scuffed Ariats, walk inside, order a large black coffee, and maybe, just maybe, say hello, like two people who hadn't once mapped out an entire future together on a tailgate under canyon stars. But every time that sign rose in the headlights, usually right around mile marker 111.8 when the horizon started to flatten into endless brown grass, the old knot would coil tight in his gut. His right boot would stay heavy on the accelerator, and he'd mutter to the empty cab, radio turned down low so Garth Brooks or George Strait couldn't drown out the excuse. Next run. Next time for sure. The lie had become routine. Next time never showed up. 15 years earlier, in the sticky heat of summer 2009, Ray was 27 and still believed the highway owed him the world. He and Maggie Donnelly had been inseparable since sophomore year at Dust Creek High. She was pure Panhandle gold. Tallish and sun-kissed, blonde hair that caught light like wheat in July, blue eyes that crinkled and laughed a full second before her mouth did, and a quiet, steady strength that made even the hardest days feel survivable. Friday nights they'd park at the Dust Bowl Drive-In, windows down, watching whatever faded double feature flickered on the cracked screen, sharing popcorn and stolen kisses. Summers meant long evenings on the rim of Palo Duro Canyon, blanket spread, six-pack of Shiner box sweating in the cooler, counting stars until the mosquitoes chased them back to the truck cab. Ray had the plan all worked out in his head. One humid August night, engine off, windows down, crickets screaming in the dark, he laid it out for her. "I'm gonna run long haul, Max. Stack some real money for a couple of years. Come back, buy us a little spread out by the canyon rim maybe. You can teach at the elementary school or finally open that bakery you've talked about since we were kids. Kids, a dog, barbecue on Sundays, the whole damn American dream." Maggie rested her head on his shoulder, fingers tracing circles on his forearm. "You don't have to leave Dust Creek to give me any of that, Ray. We can start right here, right now."
He shook his head, staring at the canyon shadows. "This place'll swallow me whole if I stay. I need to see what's out there first. Feel like I've earned something. Just a little while. Then I'm back, I swear." She lifted her head, locked eyes with him, those blue eyes steady and serious. "If you love me the way you say you do, you stay. We get married next spring like we planned. I'll ride shotgun with you if that's what it takes. CB handles sunshine, keep the logbook, make coffee in the sleeper. But if you walk out that door tonight thinking the road's gonna wait for you, it won't, and neither will I." He laughed, but it came out nervous, thin. "Baby, it's not forever. 2 years tops. 3 if the money's really good. I'll call every night, text you dumb pictures of billboards. You just wait for me, okay?" She didn't answer right away, just looked out into the dark canyon like the answer was written somewhere in the rocks. "Waiting's a dangerous thing, Ray Harlan. It can turn into something else without you even noticing." He left the next morning before the sun cleared the horizon. First load, Haas avocados out of Ventura, bound for a distributor up in Denver. He kissed her goodbye in the Creek Stop parking lot, quick, awkward, like he was already halfway down the road. She stood there in cut-off jeans and one of his old flannel shirts, arms crossed tight against her chest, watching the Freightliner his dad had co-signed for disappear down the access road until it was just dust and taillights. The calls came steady at first. Every night around 9 p.m. Central, she'd ring his old flip phone from the landline in her mama's kitchen. "You make it to Tucumari okay?
How's the load riding? Any shifting? I miss you, dummy. Tell me something stupid you saw today. He'd pull over at a rest area, lean against the trailer in the dark, tell her about the world's largest pistachio or the truck stop preacher selling salvation with coffee. They'd laugh until the connection crackled, say I love you like it was the easiest thing in the world, hang up. Texts filled the gaps between. Little red hearts, smiley faces, photos of her at the lake with friends, her hair wild in the wind. But miles pile up faster than minutes when you're young and hungry for more. A transmission breakdown in Albuquerque ate 2 full days and most of his reserve cash. A 3-day blizzard shut down I-70 in Kansas. Loads kept rolling in. Lumber from the wet forests of Oregon, coiled steel out of Gary, Indiana, pallets of produce from the Imperial Valley. The nightly calls stretched to every other night, then once a week. Texts grew shorter. Miss you. Long day. One rainy evening in a motel lot outside Oklahoma City, her voice came through the static, thin and tired. You're not coming back, are you, Ray? He stared at the taillights blurring red in the rain on the access road. I'm trying, Mags. It's just, this is the life right now. The money's good. I'll be back soon.
Long silence on the line, just breathing and static. I know. A month later, his mom called while he was idling at a Flying J in Amarillo. Maggie's getting married, son. Tommy Donnelly. Ceremony's next Saturday at First Baptist. Ray sat on the edge of the bunk, phone pressed so hard to his ear it hurt. Tommy? The quiet one with the wheat acres out by Turkey Creek? Yeah, nice boy, steady, works hard, goes to church, treats her right. Ray didn't say anything else, just thanked his mom in a flat voice, hung up, and drove straight through the night without stopping for fuel or food. Something in his chest felt cinched down tight with ratchet straps, permanent, no give. Tommy Donnelly was, by all accounts, a good man, quiet, church-going, hard-working. He'd taken over his dad's wheat section after the old man's heart attack and kept it profitable even when prices tanked. He and Maggie built a life together. 2 kids, Jake born in 2012, Emma in 2015. They ran Creek Stop as a team for years, Tommy out back fixing flats and pumping diesel, Maggie inside on the grill and register, smiling at regulars like she'd been born behind that counter. Folks in Dust Creek said they were happy, the quiet kind of happy that doesn't make headlines but lasts. Then came April 2018. Tommy was out on the back 40 after a spring rain, trying to free a stuck combine header in soft ground. The tractor tipped on the slope. He didn't walk away. The funeral was small. Family, a handful of neighbors, half the town standing graveside in the wind. Maggie wore a simple black dress, kids clinging to her legs like they were afraid she'd disappear too. Her face was blank, like she'd spent every last expression and had nothing left to give. After that, she ran the place alone. Jake learned to change oil filters and check tire pressure before he could legally drive. Emma helped stock the cooler after school, arranging energy drinks and candy bars in neat rows. The grill stayed open till 9 p.m., the pumps till midnight. Life kept rolling forward because stopping wasn't an option. Ray never went inside. On the rare runs that brought him past exit 112, he'd ease the Cascadia up to pump number 3, the one farthest from the door, step down, swipe his card, fill both tanks slow, then stand there pretending to check air lines or lights while he watched her through the smudged glass. Her hair was shorter now, pulled back in a practical ponytail, a few silver strands catching the fluorescent buzz overhead. But the smile was the same, soft, quick, genuine when she handed change to the old-timers or asked after their grandkids. Sometimes their eyes would catch for half a heartbeat through the window. Sometimes he swore she recognized the crooked stance of his truck from that bent cross member he'd never bothered to straighten. He never tested the theory, never walked through the door. January 19, 2026 dawned cold and gray across the Panhandle. Ray had dropped a reefer load of frozen orange juice concentrate in Jacksonville 4 days earlier and was running bobtail west, chasing the highest broker rate back to the coast.
The wind came straight out of the Dakotas, knife sharp, finding every seal crack in the cab. He hadn't slept more than 4 hours at a stretch since Amarillo. Coffee had stopped working 2 states back. He was running on nicotine from cheap gas station cigarettes, sheer stubbornness, and the steady thrum of the big Cat C-15 engine under the hood. The radio was tuned low to a classic country station out of Lubbock. Garth Brooks came through the speakers, The Dance. Maggie used to hum that song on short hauls back in '08, head on his shoulder, bare feet propped on the dash, singing off key but happy. Ray's hand hovered over the dial to change it, then fell away. He let it play. Exit 112 appeared on the horizon like an old scar. This time the knot in his stomach didn't cinch down as tight. It loosened, just enough to breathe. He spoke out loud to the empty sleeper for the first time in years. Just coffee, black, no bullshit, in and out.
He flicked the blinker, eased off the throttle, took the ramp. Air brakes hissed as the rig rolled into the lot beside the diesel island. Fine rain began to fall, the kind that hangs suspended and soaks through layers without ever making a real sound. He killed the engine, pulled his hoodie up, zipped it tight, and stepped down into the cold. The bell jingled as he pushed through the door. Warmth hit him first, then the smells. Fresh coffee brewing, burgers sizzling on the flat top, faint bleach from the morning mop. Maggie stood behind the counter in a faded red flannel, sleeves rolled to her elbows, apron tied around her waist. She looked up. "Hey there," she said, that West Texas drawl still soft but worn at the edges like old denim. Ray pushed his hood back. "Large black coffee, please." She nodded, turned to the bun, poured without measuring, set the foam cup down. $1.50. He slid a 5 across the scratched formica. "Keep the change." She rang it up, handed back 3 ones and 2 quarters. He didn't move for the door. Instead, he pulled out one of the red vinyl stools at the counter and sat, cup between his rough hands, steam rising slow, but he didn't drink. Maggie wiped the same spot on the counter 3 times before speaking again. "You still out here running these highways?" Ray looked up, startled she'd broken the silence first. "Yeah, still at it." 15 years, huh? Give or take a few bad loads." She nodded slow, eyes flicking to the rain-streaked window. "Time's a funny thing. Don't ask if you're ready before it takes what it wants." Ray stared into the black coffee like answers might float to the surface. The rain drummed harder on the metal roof, impatient fingers tapping out a rhythm. Maggie kept going, voice casual like they were just 2 regulars passing time. "Jake's 13 now, tall as me already, maybe taller. Says he's going to get his CDL the day he turns 18. I keep telling him, 'Boy, this ain't no life for dreaming big.' He don't listen. Got your stubborn streak, I reckon." Ray's throat tightened. "He's a good kid?" "She's mine," she said simply. "That's enough most days. Emma's 10. Reads everything she can get her hands on. Library books, cereal boxes, my old nursing magazines. Wants to be a veterinarian. Spends half her afternoons doctoring stray cats out back with popsicle sticks and string." Ray managed a small, crooked smile. "Sounds like you." "Maybe a little." Maggie leaned her elbows on the counter. "How about you? Still solo out there on the road?" "Pretty much. Easier that way. No one to disappoint." She studied him for a long beat. "Easier ain't always better, Ray." The words landed heavy between them. Ray finally lifted the cup, took a sip. The coffee scalded his tongue, but he welcomed the burn. "I'm sorry, Mags. About Tommy. About everything." Maggie's eyes flicked to the window where his truck sat idling, rain streaking the glass in slow rivers. "Tommy was a good man. Loved those kids fierce. Loved this little place even more. Didn't deserve what happened out on that field. But sorry don't change yesterday." "I know." She crossed her arms, not angry, just tired. "So what exactly are you sorry for? Leaving that summer, or the part where you never came back like you promised?" "Both," he said quietly.
Mostly the part where I thought the road would wait, thought you would, thought I could outrun what mattered. Maggie gave a small, humorless laugh that didn't reach her eyes. I waited a while, long enough to realize waiting's just another way of standing still while the world keeps turning. Ray set the cup down, half empty. I should get going. Weather's turning worse. Drive careful. Same words she'd said every time he pulled out for a short run back when short runs were all they had. He stood, started for the door, stopped with his hand on the push bar, turned back. Maggie, you happy? I mean really happy. She thought about it, really thought. Looked around at the scuffed linoleum floor, the humming cooler full of sodas and beer, the Polaroids of Jake and Emma taped to the side of the register, gap-toothed smiles, school pictures, one of them holding a kitten. I'm alive. Kids are healthy. This count is paid for free and clear. Happy? Maybe not the big, shiny movie kind we used to talk about sitting on that tailgate watching the stars fall, but I built something here, kept it standing when everything else fell down. That counts for something. It has to. Ray nodded, throat too tight for more words. Take care of yourself, and the kids. You too, Ray. Watch those black ice patches up north. He pushed through the door into the cold rain, walked back to the truck soaked through in seconds, climbed up, cranked the engine, let the heater blow full blast. Wipers slapped across the windshield. He backed out slow, tires crunching gravel, eased up the ramp, merged onto I-40 westbound. In the rear view, Creek Stop shrank until it was just a red and white smudge against the horizon. Maggie stood in the open doorway for a long minute, arms folded against the wind, watching until his taillights blended into the rain and disappeared. Ray fed throttle. The cat engine growled low and steady. Tires ate white line after white line. The regret didn't vanish. It never does. But for the first time in 15 years, it felt a fraction lighter, like maybe he'd carried it far enough for at least one afternoon to set it beside him and just breathe. He didn't know if he'd ever take exit 112 again. Probably not. Some exits you only get once in this life, but he'd taken this one. And in the quiet miles that followed, that was something.
Respected audience, if you like the story and want to hear more from this channel, please like and subscribe the channel.